Hello witches, it's Kelden. I hope you're all doing well. I am a little sick at the moment, so I've got some throat coat tea. So I'm sorry that I'll probably be sipping this a lot throughout this video. And I think I said it before, but like one of my like really weird pet peeves is like when people like sip things during their videos. Like they're like, oh yes, I don't know. I'm really weird like that. That also just burned my throat, so I guess that's karma. But anyways, today's video is going to be about spirit flight or hedge crossing. I was asked to make this video, so here it is. Yay! Getting into it, as I always say. So I have my notes. I did a blog post about this a few weeks ago, so I'll put a link down below, but basically I'll be going over everything I wrote in this video. So I have it pulled up just so I can stay on track. So, spirit flight, hedge crossing, basically it is the journey of your soul or spirit out of your body and crossing over into the other world. Right away, however that's going to look is going to be really dependent on your own personal beliefs, your own personal worldview. So just putting that out there right away. The main purpose is typically to communicate with different spirits, deity, stuff like that, and the nature of that communication is pretty much going to vary, again, by individual case. But common examples include things like making pacts, finding counsel, seeking knowledge, forming relationships, and participating in different types of rituals such as healing, initiation, celebratory, that kind of stuff. So the history of people engaging in this type of spirit flight is pretty long and diverse. And it certainly isn't limited to just witches, but it is a intrinsic piece, I would say, into the narrative of witchcraft. And it also really seems to be going through a bit of, I don't want to say a revival, but it seems to be getting more popular. Again, not to say that nobody's ever done it before, or it wasn't popular before, but it seems like more and more people are starting to get into this type of practice or incorporating it into their craft. I think especially as people are kind of starting to look for more kind of visceral and intuitive sort of forms of witchcraft. However, trying to find a place to start can be really difficult. There's not, I shouldn't say there's not a lot of stuff written about it, but it just, like, as a beginner, it can be kind of daunting. Like, I don't know where to start. How do I go about this? So I kind of have a list of different pieces and whatnot that can be helpful in learning how to cross the hedge. The first thing are kind of different tools that can help you. The first one is drumming. So I would show you my drum, but my camera is sitting on it because it also acts as a trusty tripod. But basically we know that music has a huge effect on altering states of consciousness. Drumming in particular has a long association with things like shamanism. So really, I like drumming. I know people who use rattles, I know people who use all kinds of different instruments, but drumming has really been effective for me. I've used my ukulele before to help in spirit flight. So it really is a wide range of things, especially because you can play an instrument yourself, you can have someone else play it for you, or you can listen to pre-recorded music, and when you get into pre-recorded music, the sky is the limit. You know, it's the same with using music and just in everyday spell work. You know, some people really like listening to, like, intense, dark, like, angry music. Some people like listening to, like, chimes and panpipes. I mean, it's just your personal preference. Also, I think kind of the theme of your journey, you can also tailor it to that. But with the drum, what I like to do is I like to just do a nice steady beat that kind of mimics my own heartbeat. And as I progress, I like to kind of slow it down. I find that this really helps relax my body and helps kind of push my spirit out as my physical body kind of relaxes and kind of fades into the background. The next big piece is entheogens. So these are substances that generate the divine within, or basically bring about a change in consciousness. So in terms of spirit flight, what this is going to do is this is going to help lift the soul from the body. There are obviously many different substances that alter consciousness, you know, natural, unnatural, legal, illegal, but what really makes it an entheogen is the relationship you have with it, and the ritual kind of context in which it's used, right? So really, I really don't advocate using unnatural or illegal substances. Obviously, I think the biggest one that comes to mind in terms of witchcraft and spirit flight would be flying ointment. I have a really old video about it. I have a more recent blog post, which I'll put down below. But I mean, really, things like a glass of wine, like if used responsibly, can be an entheogen. So I think that's all I'm going to say about that for now. Charms and amulets. There are basically two main purposes to utilizing these in spirit flight, and one is to assist in the journey, and the other is to protect the spirit and the body. I've heard people talking about, you know, oh, well, you don't need to do any sort of protection stuff, like, pfft, what are you, paranoid? If you are leaving your physical body behind, you're leaving it susceptible to a lot of different things. And, I mean, even if you don't really have anything to worry about, isn't it better to be cautious than screwed? So basically how these are constructed and utilized, again, is up to the own witch's imagination. I personally recommend creating a type of charm bag, kind of like the one hanging behind me. Basically, because then you can really, really tailor it to your own needs. You can put specific herbs in there for protection. You can put different animal parts. You know, really anything. The other thing, let me just grab it, that I like to use are different stones. So this is the big one that I use, and I kind of flippantly refer to it as my anchoring stone. When I journey, I will put it over my heart or hold it in one of my hands, and basically what it does is it kind of helps tether me to my physical body so I don't completely dissociate. That's just a personal preference of mine. I would recommend it especially for beginners. You know, it just helps you from getting too far out. The next piece is breathing. Really basic. We're all pretty much familiar with different breathing techniques, but again, well known for helping to alter states of consciousness. So really, in terms of spirit flight, what this is doing is it's helping relax the body, and the more relaxed the body is, the more able the spirit is able to come out. So my favorite technique is starting by taking a deep breath, holding it for 4 seconds, and then releasing it. And I repeat that process, counting down in total from 12 to 1. So you do that cycle 12 times, and then you do it again 13 times, counting down from 13 to 1. And with the counting, what's happening is your spirit is lifting. I guess it's kind of interesting because it's kind of like lifting, but at the same time it's sinking lower. I don't know. It's like you're descending into into the other world, basically. So the final piece is visualization. Once you've crossed the hedge, the world becomes a lot more complex and limitless. Tons and tons of different areas to explore. So I found that a really helpful thing is to create kind of your own personal visualization of a world tree. This is where you can begin and end your journeys. Basically, the type of tree is completely up to you. Mine is personally an oak tree, but it's up to you. I would recommend looking into different associations of trees and finding one that kind of speaks to you or what you feel called to. But the main thing is that it has big branches that reach far out into the sky, and there is a hole or opening in the base of the tree, which gives you access to the root system. The idea is that when you want to journey into the upper world, you can climb the branches, and when you want to explore the underworld, you climb down the roots. Or you can explore the midworld and just stay on the ground. So a basic ritual for spirit flight would go something, you know, the first step really is to find a quiet and comfortable space where you're not going to be bothered. Any distractions are really gonna inhibit your flight. Gather all the materials you will need, including any of those tools that I mentioned before, as well as any other things you might need. You might want a blanket to lay down on. I'll talk about posture in just a second. You might want candles, you might want incense, stuff like that. Also, if you're going to use any type of entheogen, I would recommend utilizing it a little bit before the ritual. If you're going to be using flying ointment, depending upon your formulation, mine I like to apply half hour to an hour before the ritual, just so that it's able to sink in and the effects take hold by the time I start the ritual, versus putting it on at the beginning of the ritual and doing the ritual and then coming back and then being like, oh, now it's kicking in and now I'm going back into flight mode. If you have someone drumming for you, now would be the time to have them in place. Or if you're playing music, you might want to start, pre-recorded music, you might want to start, otherwise just have your instruments ready. Once all those things are in place, you might want to cast a circle or lay a compass. Again, this just kind of helps to create the space, not only for protection, but also it really helps take you already into a liminal space, so getting into the other world and crossing the hedge is even easier. Oh, you know what? I skipped a tool, which was vehicles for flight. So this could be anything, a broom, which I have behind me, a stang, a familiar spirit. I have used all three of those with equal effects. Basically, they just help carry you on your journey. They're not necessary, but I think in the beginning they can be really helpful. If you're using a broom or a stang, I would lie it down next to you. If you're using a familiar spirit, if you have one, I would just, before the ritual begins, I would let them know what is your intention, ask them for help, provide them with offerings, whatever they need. That kind of stuff. So going back to the ritual format, if you are using a familiar spirit, now would be the time to ask for their assistance. Next, situate yourself, find a posture that works. I like to lie down on my back, but it's really about finding something that's comfortable for you, because any body discomfort is going to act to keep you bound to your physical body. Then, once you're ready and everything is set, start the breathing countdown process. And when you get to the end of that, you should be at your world tree, and from there, the journey is up to you. Let's see. When you want to end the journey, just return to your world tree. You could do that at any time by simply focusing and visualizing that tree and counting and doing the breathing technique, but this time counting upwards from 1 to 13, 1 to 12. And as you're doing that, you can slowly start feeling your body more. I like to kind of wiggle my fingers and my toes and then kind of move my arms a little bit. And so finally, I have a little bit, a few recommendations and tips. On your first few journeys, I would recommend not wandering too far from your world tree. Just take it slow, a gradual process. Each time you go and you gain more comfort and skill, you can kind of go further. But with that being said, in the beginning, it might be very tempting to spend a lot of time in the other world. Engaging in spirit flight a lot can be a lot of fun, I guess. It can be really interesting. You can have all kinds of emotions about it. But I really think that it can be harmful to spend too much time in the other world. It can lead to feelings of depression, lethargy, apathy, dissociation. So really, I would recommend spacing your journeys out. I like to do them on the new moon, the full moon, any specific, if you work with the Sabbats, stuff like that. Otherwise, whenever a specific work needs to be done. Finally, it is inevitable that you will encounter spirits. That's kind of the main purpose of journeying to the other world. My number one tip is just to be polite, like you would with anybody else. Really until you gain more skill and knowledge of working with spirits on the other side, I would recommend really letting them approach you first. Don't just walk up to every spirit you see and be like, hey, what's up? Tell me more about yourself, or whatever it is I want to know. Try not to do that. Not all spirits are benevolent and want, what's best for you. So really use your intuition. If something feels wrong, I'd recommend just returning to your world tree. But, I don't want to make people paranoid, like, don't stay away from the spirits, because that's really not the point. The point is to engage with spirits and learn from them and partner with them and form relationships. But it's kind of a process that you learn over time, and you meet helpful spirits, you'll meet harmful spirits, but you'll learn how to deal with that. So I hope that was helpful. I hope that answers some questions. If you have any more, I wasn't clear about anything, just let me know down below in the comments. But until next time, take care and safe journeying.